Conference will now be recorded.
It's very quiet.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order here for the February NFRMPO TAC meeting. So let's just go ahead and get started with introductions here in the room. I'm Evan Pinkham, Transportation Planning Manager with Weld County.
Becky Carrasco with the NPO.
Eric Tracy, Lamar County.
Hannah Feldman, City of Greeley.
Dana Horncole, City of Fort Collins.
Kim Coyvanami, Townsend. Anna Rose Cunningham, City of Loveland.
Jerome Rouser, NFRMPO.
See what there are no NFRMPO.
Jonathan Stockberger, President of the NFRMPO.
Michaela Varela, at the NPO. Lisa Deacon at the NPO.
Aaron Holt, NFRMPO.
Denise Seeley at Will County.
Joshua Mall, Transport.
All right, very good. And then if there's anyone that's new to the meetings online that would like to introduce themselves, go ahead and speak up.
Tom Moore with the RAC.
Hey everybody, Dee McIntosh, CDOT Region 4 Planning.
All right, we'll go ahead and wrap up introductions here. So we'll go to agenda item number 2, which is public comment. So if there's anyone from the public that would like to comment, we have up to 2 minutes for each person. So. I'm not seeing anyone from the public. Let's see, Desiree.
Yes, hi, I'm Desiree Moore and I work with Drive Clean Colorado. You guys probably are aware that the Colorado Energy Office's Community Accelerated Mobility Projects grant implementation funding is currently open. And if there's any organizations that are interested in applying for that grant or other grants through the Colorado Energy Office, I can provide technical assistance.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that information. Are there any other individuals that would like to speak during public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is the approval of the January 21st, 2026 meeting minutes. We have a motion on the approval of those meeting minutes.
Motion to approve January meeting minutes.
All right, there's a motion and a second. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, very good. I think with that, we'll go ahead and approve the meeting minutes from January. All right, moving right along, we'll go to Leaf Finding Agency for Quality, the agenda there. Agenda item number 4, which is the Regional Air Quality Council updates. Tom, why don't you go ahead and give us an update?
Great. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I'm going to be just doing these relatively brief verbal updates rather than sending you all lots of slides. So that I'll continue that I started last month. We are working on updating our control strategy blueprint that was approved by our board, endorsed by our board last November. And we're going to be working through the spring and into the summer on a number of supporting analyses. So one of which is to work with the division, Air Pollution Control Division, closely to develop criteria documents for analyzing control strategies so that we have a more fully fleshed out version. We hope to report back on that collaborative work with the division in the spring, probably at the April board meeting. We're also working on some analysis to evaluate what the strategies that are in the blueprint currently, how much those would change emissions and therefore how much they would reduce ozone in the future. That work has not been done before at that level of detail, so we're looking to bring those results out at the kind of late spring, early summer timeframe. We also are preparing, third item is to prepare a white paper by some health and public health experts from CU and CSU to look at the health burdens and costs of the current levels of ozone that are being measured, so that we can provide advice about the benefit of reducing ozone in the future. Finally, we have a item that the Air Quality Control Commission asked us for at their November rulemaking. So we'll be briefing the commission on a quarterly basis. The first time we're doing that is this afternoon at their meeting. It'll be very brief, very short briefing, but just to keep them updated on a regular basis because they asked for it. If folks are interested in that, I'll put that link in the chat here so you can register and listen to that. But those are the things we're working on right now. Thank you for letting me present that.
All right, thank you, Tom. Any questions for Tom in the room or online? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 5, which is the Air Pollution Control Division updates from Brendan. Go ahead, Brendan.
Hey everyone, I have a quick update from the Air Pollution Control Division on some upcoming rulemaking hearings or updates regarding rulemaking hearings at the AQCC meeting this month, which starts later today at 4:30. The first of those is a rulemaking hearing on regulation number 7 related to oil and gas operations. The commission will consider revisions to regulation number 7 to address oil and gas operations impacted by the EPA's emission guidance 40 CFR subpart Quad OC. And then the other is a request for a rulemaking hearing on regulation number 27, manufacturing sector greenhouse gas emission standards. Here, the division will request that the commission set a date to consider revisions to improve the regulation number 27 programs for the division and regulated entities and to increase transparency for the public. And those are the updates I have for today.
All right, thank you, Brendan. Any questions? All right, with that, we'll move on to the Metropolitan Planning Organization agenda for action items. We got 2 action items there. First one we'll be looking at is item number 6, which is the 2026 TAC Vice Chair election. Becky.
Yeah. So we switched between Weld County and Larimer County for representation because Evan is from Weld County. We need a Larimer County representative. So that can be those communities that are fully within Larimer County or the 2 that straddle Larimer County, so are in both, so Windsor and Timnath. This is consisting of filling in for the chair when the chair is not around. And then there's a once a month 15-minute meeting probably with me to go over the upcoming month's TAC agenda after the council meeting, so we can find a time that fits for all 3 of us, whoever the 3rd person is. So happy to take any nominations for anyone who would like to be vice chair from the Larimer side. I would like to nominate Dana Hornholt.
Shocking.
All right, so there's a motion, and then do we have a second? Are there any other nominations? All right, then we can close nominations, and so if there, is there, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. And I'll reach out to the 2 of you to find them. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to action item, agenda item number 7, which is the February 2026 TIP amendment. Jonathan.
Yes. Well, first off, please note that there are updated tables in the handouts. This memo is out of date for 2 of the projects. The February 2026 TIP amendment includes 3 project additions and 1 pool addition from various agencies. The first addition is a project from Larimer County with a project US 34 Canyon Edge Open Space Safety and Access Improvements. This project features $1,250,000 of local help preserve open spaces or HPOS sales tax in future funding. This project will provide primary entrance to a new 1,500 acre open space in West Loveland, which will include bike compatible shoulders. The next 2 project additions are from Colton Loveland. The first project is titled Transit Operating, which features $220,500 state Senate Bill 230 funding and $24,500 local funding in fiscal year 26. This project increases bus frequency on 3 local routes. Please note the project is anticipated to have recurring costs in future fiscal years, but those amounts are currently unknown. The second COLT project is titled Transit Vehicle Purchase. This project features $611,540 of Senate Bill 230 funding and $67,927 local funding in fiscal year 26. This project purchases 3 new buses for COLT. Finally, we have 1 pool addition to our TIP. This pool is for the Non-Attainment Area Air Pollution Mitigation Enterprise, or NATME funding. This pool comes with 2 projects in Fort Collins, 1 project in Loveland, and 1 project in Greeley. The total state NATME amount is $3,612,937, and the total local amount is $843,987, all in fiscal year 26. Please note, after the pool is added to the TIP, all future project additions will be modifications unless the total amount is above $5 million. The public comment period opened today and will close on March 20th. The environmental and demographic impact analysis for the Larimer County project can be found in the packet. NFRMPO staff noted no disadvantages and support adding the February 2026 TIP amendment to the fiscal year 24 through 27 TIP.
Any questions for Jonathan?
I have one.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, thank you. So I'm looking at that last bullet about the NATME funding. Went kind of quick. What are the 4 projects that are funded by that and the match?
Right now, give me 1 second. City of Fort Collins, Tap Hill widening, City of Fort Collins connecting North College, City of Greeley Connect Mobility, and then City of Loveland US 34 and US 287 access project. We don't get descriptions for the pool, so I can't tell you much more than that, but maybe the local members can tell you more if there's any questions further.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Appreciate it.
Any additional questions?
I do have a question. Because that Loveland project, the access project, was another funded project through the NPO, are those like tied together in any way?
What do you mean?
So the 287 and 34 access project received SDBG funding, and some of like that local match is, you know, in that project, or at least in that project, not that it's, I don't think we were using it as match.
Are you asking if it's an amendment to the existing IGA?
No, just making sure that those funding sources are like tied to the same project essentially.
So maybe showing this in that project under SDBG, showing that these funds are supposed to be in this pool. We can double check to make sure that they're not, that they're tied. Yeah.
And that, I guess, and that CDOT is referencing like that same project underlying whether or not it's, yes.
called the same thing, et cetera. Yes, we can check with them and make sure it's the same tip ID, tip ID. Yes. Yeah. We'll do that.
When we reached out to CDOT concerning the agreements for the NFRMPO funds, they indicated that they might be separate projects. And then we had a separate agreement for the NFRMPO fund.
Okay. When we meet with the STIP person at CDOT, we can ask them. We will find it. Hopefully not.
All right, any additional questions? All right, I'll open the floor for a motion.
Motion to approve the TIP amendment as noted.
All right, second. All right, so all in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, with that, we've got an approval there for the 2026 TIP amendment, the February amendment there. All right, we'll move on to discussion items. We've got agenda item number 8, which is AASHTO design guidance, the bike guide. Dana.
Appreciate the time. We brought a presentation before the NOCO Bike and TAC Collaborative to next slide. Go ahead. About some track lane conditions that we have in Fort Collins, and we're trying to understand how other member communities might handle the same situation. It's essentially a through traffic lane that forces drivers into a mandatory left or right hand turn. I think the one you're seeing on the screen there is at Harmony Road, westbound at Boardwalk. Essentially, cars are forced to make a quick movement that is in conflict with bicyclists. And because there is some guidance from 2 different sources, AASHTO and CDOT, that are in potential conflict with each other. So we wanted to have a conversation with some of the communities. And so you'll see later where we got some feedback from the NOCO Bike and TAC Collaborative. One of the challenging things for our community is that these track lanes are the only instance where we currently have bikes yielding to vehicle or to motor vehicles. And that is, that's proven confusing to a lot of cyclists in our community, and they've expressed that to our council. Next slide. Again, this is Harmony and Boardwalk. The particular challenge here is that there are such high speeds on Harmony Road, and it's 45 miles an hour. You'll see in an upcoming slide with the AASHTO guidance that what they're proposing there is for speeds 30 miles an hour and less. But essentially, you can see that right lane, which is to some drivers who aren't familiar, they're thinking it's a through lane, and all of a sudden it becomes a right turn lane only. And then bikes are having to get from the bike lane on the right of that lane and then cross the vehicular traffic into the bike lane that would be to the left of the right turn lane. Next slide. For context, this looks similar, but this is a traditional right turn lane and how we've striped Harmony Road. And this gives bikes the right of way, and vehicles, motor vehicles must yield to bikes. Essentially, they're coming out of the bike lane. If someone's entering the right turn lane, they're not forced there. And so that's the primary difference. We also skip stripe lanes so that it's very clear that bikes have the right of way. Next slide. This is the signage that goes with our track lanes, and you'll see this is part of a CDOT recommendation for track lanes. Bikers have indicated they're not really happy with these signs because they could, and rightly so, they're declared vehicles, so are they yielding to themselves? Or one of our proposals is to change the sign to yield to motor vehicles as opposed to just vehicles, but there's no standard MUTCD sign, whereas this is a standard MUTCD sign. The two examples there, one's 40 miles an hour, the other's 45 miles per hour. And so, yeah, next slide. So here's the MUTCD guidance. It talks about the signage that needs to be put in place. This is the typical signage that goes with a right turn lane, not a track lane. And this is what most bicyclists are used to, and they believe that they have the right of way. And so, in order to provide some consistency, we're considering changing so that bikes always have the right of way, even in the higher speed conditions. So next slide, please. CDAC guidance is what we have in place right now, where there's no skip striping to indicate that bikes have the right of way, and we've indicated to the bikes in that signage, even though they routinely may be missing that signage, that they must yield to vehicle or to moving vehicles other than bikes. And this is specifically called out in the roadway design guidance manual from CDOT. Next slide. And then AASHTO provides a little bit of a middle ground, although it allows for the skip striping and to have bikes have the right of way, and then motor vehicles would then be yield to the cyclists and to provide the skip striping or the sharrows, depending on the preference. But again, this guidance is for less than 30 miles per hour. And so that's why we're sort of doing an inventory of the neighboring communities to see what they're doing in communities. Next slide. In Boulder, they've indicated that bikes have the right of way no matter what. And so that's what we're considering moving to, in that it provides a consistent approach throughout the entire network for cyclists so that they know and can reasonably expect what they're supposed to do at different intersections. I don't think that within the cycling community there's great understanding of what is a track lane versus what is a right turn lane. So it kind of looks the same to them. The examples, though, that are in Boulder are all 30 miles an hour and less. So I think there's not as much potential conflict area at those higher speeds. If you get those vehicles don't know what they're not used to the area, then they may move erratically and there'll be a problem. Next slide. So our longer term solution, if we had all the land in the world, was we would have the separated bike lanes in all of these corridors, and that we provide a slip ramp off of for the cyclists. They could then go to the intersection, go through a protected intersection, and remain on a separated bike lane through those areas. Our active modes plan has already made that recommendation for the two examples you've seen here in Fort Collins. Our Harmony corridor and our Lene corridor would eventually have those separated bike lanes, so you could stay in street and then move to the separated bike lanes. Next slide. So the questions we're asking here is, do you have this in your community, and how are you handling it? If you've chosen a particular way, which guidance are you following? And then what concerns do you have with the guidance you've been provided, and both for the MUTCD and CDOT guidance, as well as the AASHTO guidance. And then the next slide shows what feedback we got at the NOCO Bike Ped Collaborative. So yeah, next slide, please. So I think Greeley provided some great feedback. We appreciate that. I think that second one indicated, that consistency that cyclists have raised at least in Fort Collins, and then showing the inconsistency between the two recommendations. from NGCD and Ashton. No, leave it there for folks if you have comments now or as you think about it in the future. We're happy to take that.
I did some homework after the NOCO bike bed. The model traffic code does state that vehicles should stay, the vehicle that's staying in the lane, which is in that case a car. The person changing lanes in that case is the bike must yield. So that would be the challenging portion of that with the model traffic code. I think in a situation that will happen, we may like to do something like bike signals or other types of devices, but conflicting with the model traffic code, which it does state that the person changing lanes needs to be the one to yield, whether that would be bikes or cars, essentially education. That's why you can do the group striking thing when there's an exclusive right turn lane, but not necessarily when there's a traffic lane. So I think we'll probably be, as we have those situations, looking to do bike signals or separated facilities, or looking to keep them on the outside and just handling over that. So, the state does have guidance on that as well in the board document without restriction.
All right, I got a couple of hands up online. Let's start with Nathan.
Yeah, Nathan Boheim with the City of Loveland. We have about a dozen of these in Loveland, as near as we've been able to count on short notice. We cross the bike lane across the trap lane. Can I share my screen real quickly? Can you allow me to do that?
Yeah, you should be ready.
Yep.
This is Taft County Road 17, approaching 57th, which should be 28, I believe. We kind of think this is probably the best example of how we'd like to do it. I guess we hadn't looked at the model traffic code, so we hadn't considered that thing. We signed this as with the MUTCD sign, begin right turn, yield to bikes. We've got a couple of these where we have advanced signs that I think we've landed on through traffic use left lane as the appropriate advanced sign for these scenarios. But yeah, this is what we're currently liking. It does not have the issues with the bike yielding. As a cyclist, I agree with the NOCO bike and ped co-op that I would have to come to a complete stop and turn my head behind me to make a judgment about whether it's safe to proceed. That's a really difficult maneuver. The vehicle is in a much better position to yield.
Thanks, Nathan.
Yep.
I think, Tom, you got your hand up, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Hey, thanks for the presentation. I'm always struck by these discussions about how much of this is up to the bicyclist to figure out how to deal with. And I just wondered how the city, maybe not only Fort Collins, but other cities approach driver education, especially given the number of cars that are passing through our cities in these situations that don't already live there. Bicyclists are much more likely to be local residents. And I just wonder whether green boxes alone are sufficient. I don't know what the right kind of warning would be, but I'd be interested to hear from folks at Fort Collins about whether we're trying hard enough with the drivers to protect bicycle safety. Thanks.
Tom, that's a great point. I think we have the driver education program specifically geared towards educating drivers on how to interact routinely with cyclists in different situations. And then also for different types of drivers, whether they be routine traffic or truck drivers, that kind of thing. So our FC Moves group handles that outreach, and I don't have all the specifics on the program, but I do think there's a particular problem with the trap lane discussion, because it's most often than not folks who are unfamiliar with the area, they're going to cause the worst problem because they won't know that the lane is ending. So it's a great point, and having that advanced signage is probably a good thing.
I know we have to be careful about not putting up too many signs. People don't pay attention then. I just wonder about the larger point, though, of putting the bicyclist on high-speed roads. I realize that's convenient. There's often a lot of room, but I just can't imagine that there's a good way to reach all the universal drivers that are using Harmony Road, for example, about that situation. So is there any legal enforcement kind of activity that the police services could take on? Just wondering.
As of yet, we haven't identified any enforcement that could help out with this particular situation, but I think we're looking at all the different strategies, whether it be signage, infrastructure, and operations and enforcement. I think ultimately having those separated bike lanes provides the greatest amount of protection.
Yeah, well, I'll just sorry if I'm picking on you too much, but we could lower the speed limit. That would give everybody a better chance. And I would say that there are many roads in Fort Collins and other northern Colorado cities where people are often driving, well over the speed limit, and of course that would only make the problem worse. So maybe it's okay to also think about that as a strategy to reduce the conflict. Okay, thanks for hearing all my comments. Appreciate it.
All right, any additional comments or questions?
I would agree that like the consistency is good and doing what feels intuitive. So with, thinking like about which lane is crossing which lane, I think the standard driver isn't thinking necessarily about that. Or like, oh, it's my lane that's doing this, or it's their lane that's doing this necessarily. So like making it feel intuitive of what's gonna happen.
I think the problem with these is like, when you turn on a turn signal in a traffic lane, when you turn on your turn signal, you're moving lanes. That's when the thought process is I should look at my surroundings. You can, in a traffic lane, you're continuing straight. So the driver, no matter how much you educate them, they're not probably turning on a turn signal. The level of approach with the striping, at least, it feels like you're maybe changing something. But from the driver perspective, it would be hard to, if you're continuing straight, you're not expecting somebody to be moving in front of you. I totally get the fact that it's really hard for bikes to turn around, but the educating the drivers would be very challenging, and especially at 45. On 30, maybe you can pull that off, but 45, that's getting a little spooky, especially since you're driving 50. But if you're not turning on a turn signal, then why would you assume that you should be doing something extra as a driver? Although I always look for bikes in Fort Collins when I'm driving down Hollywood. So let's go. Spot one. They're very scary. I would love your separate facilities.
Appreciate those perspectives. When we reached out to Boulder, they felt like they had vetted it enough with their attorney's office that they were comfortable with the decision they made, but again, they didn't have the high speed sort of situations that we're looking at here. So I think if you follow Region 0, maybe lowering the speeds and gives you more alternatives.
I have an option. You can grid lock our more.
We'll have that speed.
Any additional comments?
I guess I have a question, and I don't know if this would be a good suggestion or not, I'm just thinking of, is there a way to merge the two lanes before the intersection and then create where the bicycle lane isn't changing, then you're adding a normal right turn lane? I'm not sure if that would work or not, but then you're doing the merging behavior before the conflict is happening.
That was an option that we looked into for future locations where track lane might be called for, or widening or something like that. I think in the retrofits, we may not have as much space, but Harmony we may at Boardwalk. So that is one alternative we look at, is to actually have the vehicles cross so that then
Then you're covered.
you got the right turn situation. Thank you.
It can be tricky with retrofits.
All right, Tom, you've got your hand up.
That may be left over.
I think I failed to take it down. I apologize.
No worries. Any additional comments? All right, thank you guys for the discussion. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 9, which is the 2025 TMO call for projects. Aaron?
Thank you, Evan. I'll wait for a drum roll. PowerPoint. Wait a minute, trying to start my screen. Are you?
While Jerome does that, I will highlight in the memo that the applications we did receive was linked in the memo, as well as our award recommendations and scoring were part of the handouts as well. But I'm here to talk about the 2025 TMO call for projects award recommendations. This is just a discussion we'll be back next month for action. Next slide. So quick overview. I'll just touch base quickly on what the goals for this call for projects was, the schedule and funding estimates, and then I'll go into the project recommendations. Next slide. So if you remember, I came back a couple months ago to talk about this TMO call for projects. There were 6 goals out of this call for projects, which was mobility, connectivity, sustainable projects, accessibility, innovation, and local commitment. And those kind of broke down a little bit what we were looking out for each one of those goals up there. Next slide. And this was the call timeline. It's not anticipated anymore. Well, I guess it is anticipated as long as nothing else happens. But we're right now, it's the TAC discussion with our presentation. We'll go to council discussion with the applicant presentation as well as ours, and we'll come back for action and announce the funding in April. Next slide. So this is just to highlight the funding estimates for this project. This funding came from the CRP and the Planning Council back in 2024, set aside $400,000 as a TMO incubator funding to be spread out from FY25 to 27, with FY 2025 being $200,000, then $100,000 the following 2 years, with a local match of 17.21%. Next slide. So this will go into the scoring and the recommendations. So the scoring committee is a little different than probably past call for projects, but it consisted of NPO staff. So we did it with 2 NPO mobility staff, me and Tanya, since this is a call for projects under mobility, and then 1 transportation staff member, which was Jerome over there. Next slide. So this was the scoring system that we had for the project. Broken down into 3 sections: mobility and connectivity, sustainable projects and local commitment, accessibility and innovation. Mobility and connectivity was 50% of the weight, and then the other 2 were 25% of the weight. Slide. So we received 1 application for the project. We scored it 11 out of 15. The scoring was in the handouts. We put our reasons for those since We scored it ourselves, wanted to be a little transparent with the reasons, and we gave them 11 out of 15, and we recommend 200,000 full amount. Slide. And this is the project location. So we received the application from the GoNoco 34 TMO. That is their project location. It runs along from Estes to Kersey along 34. And on that map shows the RTCs and RSCs that run through that project as well. And then any RATCs that are existing, internal or proposed, that run through there as well. Next slide. And then the next steps, we'll be going March 5th to Planning Council for discussion and applicant presentation. Then we'll be back for action in March with TAC, and then April 2nd will be the Planning Council action with the announcement April 3rd funding. Next slide. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. We also have Jacqueline from GoNoco 34 if you have any questions specifically on the project or the application. She's here to answer those as well. So open up for any questions.
Aaron, what level of interest did you guys get from other, organizations on other?
So we had a few people reach out, questions from different municipalities with how this could be used in the future, or what TMOs, and then we had, I had bike, I'm trying to think of the nonprofit in Fort Collins, those bike for Collins. I was going to put a specific name on it. So easy. They did reach out to me and ask if, in the future, if this is something they could look at. They didn't have a lot of knowledge on it or anything. They saw it pretty late, so they just had a few questions about the future options. So I did discuss it with them. Okay. So hopefully more interest in the future as well as this grows and we see the strength of the TMO we have in our region.
And I don't think I've seen the application, at least I didn't see it in the.
It's linked.
Oh, it's linked in
Yeah,
there, okay.
it's quite long, so.
Well, I could probably get my answer in there, but what were the requested funds for, just for operations or expanding boundaries or anything, or?
Will Jacqueline speak on that?
Okay.
Not expanding boundaries, that much I'm 100% certain. It was a mix between operational funding for salaries and 7 different programs. New mobility programs to deploy along US 34, including regional services as well.
So I don't know if I'm misunderstanding something, but looking at, it looks like they had a total cost of 400,000, but the recommendation is only 200,000. But there was 400,000 available, so what happens to the other 200,000 if they're?
It's Jerome, if you go to the funding estimate slide, it's 400,000 over the 3 years, 200,000 for the first FY25, and then 100,000 over the next 2 call for projects, and that's how it's written out in the tip. So it'll be 200, 100,
But
100.
the recommendation just said 200,000
For the
awarded to the TMO?
Yes, because they were on the project for this FY25 call.
So there will be additional calls for the
Yes.
26 and 27?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Any additional questions?
So my question is, what the benefit of like waiting to award those 26 and 27 funds are, because we didn't have more people apply, or?
It was how it was laid out for when this call for project was first set aside, as well as just that hoping.
But
Oh,
in this
Elizabeth.
call, you could.
Let's say Elizabeth.
Because in general, there would be multiple years in one call. So why not? Like, what is gonna change to to go forward with the next 2 years, and also we're in fiscal year 26 now. It's halfway through, more than halfway through. So, or is there an option to streamline this for the 26 and 27 funds through this decision?
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Anna Rose is 100% right. And I guess my ask from TAC would be that you guys are agreeing, as part of the discussion, when we come back to you, the intent for the call was for the 3 years, all of it. And based on the application, you can see that that was the intention of the people who submitted the application as well. So I would say that the intent would be that we would award the total amount of funding for those 3 fiscal years, with the expectation that, and especially because with the reauthorization of the transportation bill, we want to get these under contract and encumbered before anything changes. So I would hope that the TAC would support us going ahead and awarding for all of the funding based on that.
Yeah, I'd definitely support bundling them together. We didn't have any other applicants, and I wouldn't like to divvy out small amounts of money to another TMO potentially in the future. So I'd be in support of that. But any other comments on that? And this will be an action item next month? Yes. So, very good. All right, any additional comments? We're looking at that as an action item next month, and we're going to potentially bundle those funds together.
So for, I guess, just for clarification on like moving into the action item next month, with this discussion, TAC's recommendation is to award the $400,000 to.
That would be the recommendation. And so then if TAC is in agreement with that, then the slides need to reflect that when it goes to council. Otherwise, there will be a lot of confusion. So.
No, yeah, we'll update the slides.
Yes.
All right, sounds good. I think we can go ahead and move on. Move on to agenda item number 10, which is the 2055 Regional Transportation Plan kickoff. Jerome and Caleb.
Hi, everyone. So it's here, it's time. It's the 2055 RTP. And starting off with some beautiful throwback pictures of covers of our previous 4 RTPs. Before we get into this, I just want to note that you're going to be hearing from all of the planning team throughout this entire RTP process. But whenever you're going to hear about very general RTP overarching updates, those will come from either myself, Jerome, or the both of us throughout this process. So in case anyone needs a refresher, or for any of our new TAC members, just going to speak a little bit to what is the Regional Transportation Plan. So pulled this from the 2050 RTP. Every 4 years, the NPO engages stakeholders to develop a new long-range transportation plan for the region. The purpose of the RTP is to develop a program of projects and strategies based on identified goals and performance measures, expected population and job growth, available funding, and projects identified by local communities. And then just some high-level things about the plan. It's updated every 4 years by us. The plan must be submitted by the deadline, and it will be adopted by council in September of 2027. It considers all travel modes. It must have at least a 20-year planning horizon. Projects must be fiscally constrained in the plan, although we do have an additional section to show unconstrained projects. And it must meet air quality conformity and the state's GHG reduction requirements. And then just a very high level, what are the improvements and anticipated changes for this RTP compared to the last one? A big thing for NPO staff is we have to follow the state's digital accessibility standards, which will make putting the plan all together a little bit more more of a time constraint for us, so we're anticipating that. We're also restructuring some of the chapters and the subsections. We're actually going to have more chapters in this plan than before, and kind of rearranging where content goes in the plan. The purpose of this is just make it easier to find information in the plan. As it stands now, it was every time we're like, okay, let's find this in the plan. We're like, okay, let's look through maybe 2-3 chapters to actually find it. So that it was not really working. And then we've moved some items to appendices to make them easier to update as needed. So an example of this is the system performance report. And we want to give the plan a name other than 2055 RTP. Staff is currently doing some voting on this, so as soon as we have an update on that, we will let you guys know. I've put inspiration that we've been looking at on the slide. Yeah, more on that to come.
All right. So this is the very high level schedule that we have. We have an internal one that is even more overwhelming than this. This is the easy to look at version. So what we're looking at, so the blue is referring to model and model updates, which we'll be doing in conjunction with the RTP. You'll hear more about that a little bit later. The orange is referring to our performance measures. Green is financial. So that's mostly call for projects, and the TIP, that will also include the financial plan, but that's not on this particular schedule. Purple is any of the associated plans that act as a sub-plan to the RTP, and then final approval is September 2027. So we are currently at the very beginning of the of updating our models, which you'll hear more about that later. We'll also begin identifying what are the goals and objectives of this plan, working with TAC and Planning Council to determine that, and then finishing up some of the associated plans. So that'd be the public involvement plan, freight plan, and then active transportation plan. And then throughout the entire process, we'll be doing outreach and stakeholder engagement. So as a result of the 2021 public involvement plan, prior to every plan that we do, we come up with an outreach strategy. And with that strategy, we identify different phases. So for this plan, we have 4 different outreach phases. So the first one, in the phase we're currently in, is goals and problem statement. So that is setting the goals for the plan and beginning the planning process. So informing stakeholders on what is the RTP, what does that process look like, how are we going to engage, what's the purpose of the RTP, why do we have to do it, what are the benefits, things of that nature. During this phase, most of it will be directed towards our elected officials, other stakeholder groups, so TAC, NOCO, Bike Ped, our mobility committees. And then we go into phase 2, which is visioning, and that is mostly looking at our regional corridors, determining what those are, and beginning the visioning process for that. How do we envision those corridors will look like come 2055? And part of that will be working on vision plans for each of our priority corridors, as well as identifying what projects are along those corridors. And those projects will also go into the model as well as our financial plan. Phase 3 is scenario planning. So this is where a big bulk of the modeling will happen. This is where we will work with stakeholders to identify what scenario we will be doing in the model. So for example, for the 2050 RTP, we did a no build scenarios. What happens if we built nothing? I can tell you what happens is service failure. We don't want that. We have full build. What happens if money falls out of the sky and we're able to fully build out every project in the plan? We did a high density scenario. So looking at higher densities in certain areas in the region, how that will impact our network. All those are determined by TAC. So when that process comes, we will come to TAC to discuss what scenarios are we looking to do, what will be beneficial for your planning efforts as well as ours, and then running that through the model. And then phase 4 is closing the feedback loop. So that is drafting the plan, connecting with all the stakeholders along the way to follow up on any things we need to follow up on. And that is also evaluating the plan at the end to see if we achieved what we set out to be, as well as noting what we can change for the next plan, what went wrong, things like that, to improve our planning process.
All right, and then just to touch quickly on the structure of the plan, and as I go through this, feel free to share your thoughts on this or what you think. So we're under chapter 1, that's our introduction chapter. We'll start with a section, what is the NFRMPO, and then a section that goes into an overview of the 2055 Regional Transportation Plan. Chapter 2 goes into our regional context. So it'll discuss the different pieces of our transportation system, as well as a little bit of background on the socioeconomics of our region. Chapter 3 is on safety and resiliency. So we'll start with safety and then move into system resiliency. Chapter 4 is emerging technology, and we would really love your feedback on this as to kind of what's going on in your communities, and we're hitting the sections that we need to here. What we've drafted as staff is autonomous vehicles and BMS, artificial intelligence, electrification, and then fiber and broadband. Under chapter 5, this is our regional transportation vision. So this will have our visions for all of our corridors and our scenarios. Chapter 6 is funding and financing. So this is our fiscally constrained plan. Chapter 7 will go into the projects. So we'll start with fiscally constrained projects and then fiscally unconstrained projects. And then we will wrap it up with quite a few appendices. So take a pause if anyone has any questions or comments. I'm seeing none, so we'll move on.
Oh, all right, so this is a very high level description of what data we will need from you. I do want to note that this is just for the plan itself. We will have some data requests concerning the model that will come from Tasha and Becky. And then we will also have some requests related to the TIP and call for projects. That would be a separate process outside of this. So this is only referring to requests for the RTP itself. Another thing I'd like to note is that this will change as we go through the planning process. So an example of that is our performance measures. Once we know what those regional performance measures are, we will have more detail on what exactly we need from that. But we will give you all plenty of time to submit those data requests and let you know as soon as we know when we need something. So the first thing that we will be requesting here this week or next week is a call for plans and housing needs assessments. So what we're looking for is any currently adopted plan you may have, just so we have our list updated, and we can be sure to refer to information in that plan, in this plan, and then housing needs assessments. If your community has done one, we are looking to include a little bit more housing information in this plan. So we'll ask that as well as we begin looking at how we can incorporate housing into the plan. And that will be Q1 of 26. So for Q2 of 26, that will be projects. So both fiscally constrained and unconstrained funding sources for the projects, projects in CIPs, and any existing or anticipated voter-approved initiatives. We use that information for our financial plan to help us anticipate how much funding may be available come 2055 with the assumptions we have now. So we will be looking for that Q2 2026. For Q3 2026, we will be looking for operation and maintenance cost discussions, getting that in so we can get that determined. That is also part of the financial plan. For Q4 2026, that is when we are anticipating regional performance measure data. We will determine what those performance measures are prior to Q4 2026. So then is when we anticipate that we will know what those performance measures are and what data we will need from local agencies. For our federally mandated performance measures, we don't really need data sources from local agencies. So this will just be for the regional performance measures that are determined by TAC and Planning Council. And then, not to bring it up again, we are going to have to do the active transportation transit inventory again for the 2055 RTP. So we are anticipating that we will begin that process in 2027 to give 4 to 5 months for that to be completed. Another thing I want to note is data requests will be sent out from the planning at NFRMPO.org email. We do request that that you send that data to that email, because that ends up in all of our mailboxes so that anyone in the planning team can see it. That is also a good email for any questions. If you don't know who would be the person to ask, that email, we all see it. So when in doubt, email the planning email.
All right. So, not to bring back bad memories, but during the 10-year prioritization process throughout 2024, there was a desire expressed to review the regionally significant corridors as a whole, which I think is a really good idea to do for this RTP. Looking at, we have 29 of them. Do we need to have all 29? Are there any that we need to add? So there is that process. Separate from that, there was another desire expressed to prioritize those RSCs, just the RSCs, not the RATCs or the RTCs, just the roadways. To say, right now, RSC number 1 is I-25. And it's just basically the roadway, the prioritization of the roadways. So we have interstate, then we have the US highways, and we have the state highways. But changing it to be RSC number 1 is the top priority for the region, down to the 29th priority, or however many we have. Is that desire still there? And if so, who would like to be involved in that? And I don't know that that is something we need to be doing at the TAC meetings. I think that is a separate working group, because we could take hours to do that. And so I think that would be something that would probably be a separate process from the TAC meetings, but we would bring those results back to TAC. So the first question is there still a desire to prioritize the RSCs from highest priority to maybe not the highest priority, but still a priority?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would that replace the priority corridors, the 6 that was put into the old RTP because there was an influx of federal funding that fell out of the sky? Would that replace those then, the prioritization?
I think that would need to be looked at again because of this new RTP. Yes, whether or not we do 1 to 29 as
like this is just a ranking, and
yeah,
then we would eliminate the 6 priority corridors and essentially just rank all of them. Is that the thought?
That's one possibility. Okay. Or would we want to do another 6, 8, 10 top ones? So that would be something we could discuss too. And then take that to account.
I think an update in some form or fashion would be appropriate. The way the old RTP was written was like money fell out of the sky. That's why we have these 6. Mm-hmm. But maybe looking at them in some way would be appropriate to do so. And would have interest.
So that's the prioritization list.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So we could do both. I don't know. The RSCs and the prioritization list at the same time, or do we want to just do the RSCs first, and then from that we'll rise to the top? These are our top whatever. Yeah, that could be 5.
As far as like ranking all like 29, I don't necessarily see the value in that. I can kind of see the value in there being kind of that tiered approach, and maybe, top 10 or whatever are prioritized, and then the rest are the supporting network. Otherwise, I think that you're getting down to like, really specifics that don't matter.
That's fair. I'm curious how people are making prioritizations in their local plans, because our updated transportation master plan essentially has tier 1
corridors through 2 corridors and then everything else. So that kind of helps us be a little bit flexible when we need to, but also have that prioritization. And then we have an appendix that shows like the scoring methods and what the exact ranking was if we need that level of detail. So during some of the other methods that could be beneficial to apply here.
Ours are much more project-based rather than corridor-based. Which, I mean, I think there's just 2 methods of looking at it and get value on both sides, but, I don't know.
Well, our plan is a corridor-based plan, so I think to give us more flexibility, so we can have projects that are listed because we have to do our quality conformity. But we also have the corridor so that if anything does fall out of the sky, we're able to say, yes, it's in our plan. And then move on. So if folks are interested, I can send an email out to all the TAC members, and whoever is interested, I can send out maybe a poll of some times, and then we can meet together and figure out. Because it is quite a, figuring out what the approach is and then moving forward from there. If we're not prioritizing all 29, that is a huge headache removed for me, so I appreciate that. But if we wanted to do like a tiered approach where we have our tier 1, which is maybe 1 to 10, let's say, and then the supporting network, secondary, I think that's a really great approach, and that will help to prioritize the school.
I think the only other thing to just add out there, and not to beat a dead horse on it, would just be is when the MPO does it, I think we should separate ourselves a little bit from DOT.
Yes.
CDOT a little bit, and be looking more holistically at, regardless of who owns it, what the regional significance of it is, rather than just looking at, well, CDOT owns it, so therefore it's a priority road, but if it's not CDOT owned, then it is not.
Yes.
More on the use of it for regional context rather than ownership.
And then if we need to add any corridors, I think for the 2050 RTP, I think is when we added 2 additional ones, because we had 27 for several years, or a couple of plans, and then we added 2 more, so we had 29. If we need to add another 1 or 2, or take any away, also, I think we should look at all of them.
Look at taking some away.
Well, just looking at all of them, just to make sure, are they really regionally significant for the whole system, or just because they don't, should actually be on the list. I'm not saying we'll take any away, but I'm just saying we should look at all.
I also note with that, we'll also look at the alignments. So also for 2050 RTP, some got extended as plans were updated. They could be shortened depending on new plans. So we can also look at the alignment itself, which isn't really part of prioritization, but that'd be part of determining the corridors to prioritize.
I'm curious if we determine what those methods are and how we're prioritizing them. I know that we spent a lot of time on making sure we get apples to apples data for that, and I'm assuming defining that earlier on with those factors would be helpful to have that data earlier. So, and I think we need to think about the corridors and not so much the projects, because that's the prioritization list, which I need to come up with a different name because it's getting confused with CDOT's list. But we're talking about, just the corridors themselves, and then we can come up with the process of prioritizing the projects.
I don't know if now is the appropriate time to approach this, but one of the things we talked about with the US 34 corridor is the parallel corridors, and I guess if theoretically an improvement to connectivity on a parallel corridor technically fits within an improvement to that corridor, if that makes sense. So if we theoretically County Road 30, if we were to do an overpass over I-25, can that kind of count towards it being a 34 project because it's relieving the demand on 34, just that kind of thing. I was assuming that's probably a no at this point, but at least defining that or seeing if that's a possibility.
It would depend on if it's federal aid.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, we can, yeah.
All right, any additional comments? All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 11, which is the regional travel demand model update and model steering team kickoff.
So we are updating the North Front Range NPO regional travel demand model, which is another significant step for the RTP 2055. So if we see the timelines, we released the RFP for the travel demand model update in fall 2025, and the base year is we still now in the suggesting process, but 2023 or 24. The most recent data is available, that one will be preferable for us. And then the notice for proceeding happened in January 2026, and then data gathering, model development, and model steering team, that is the whole process. Actually, it will go through the whole year from 2026 to 7. And then the scenarios, we will get them in early 2027. And then we need to adopt the RTP in 2055 RTP in September to 2027. So the purpose of the models, we have the land use and the travel demand model. So the mainly the projection of the travel traffic count volume. This is something familiar to all of the communities, because we have the data request most of the for the traffic counts, and then the travel patterns within the communities of our North Front Range region, and then supporting the RTP and the air quality conformity analysis, GHG documentation like stuff, and then evaluation process for the roadway network and the transit projects that we have that can mitigate the future demand of the region, and then evaluation for the upcoming developable projects within our region, which is proposed, and then how the travel demand will tell us that how it will impact to our region. And it also supports the studies of the significant corridor, sub-area, funding, grant application, policy support documents, and other planning activities. So first of all, I will go with the land use model, the urban sim, because that is something the output is fed into the travel demand model. So the urban sim model is a micro simulation model that actually considers the data in the micro data level, which is needed for us according to the TAC level. And then it simulates the interaction among the household, jobs, developers within the real estate markets, and it needs to be finalized for our travel demand model in late 2026. So the output we get from our urban sim data, those are household level demographic allocation, employments by sector. The sector categorized are industrial, retail, service, medical, and education, which is similar to our travel demand model sectors. And then the spatial distribution of the growth according to the block and the TAS levels, which is important for our travel demand model and the forecast by the model here. The output needs to be in the household level, like the output we get of the, like the population, we don't get the total population projection, we get the household level population projection, something like that. Next. So the process in the urban sim model actually works by default. In the urban sim software, the US census base year demographic and economic data are over here, and from the state demographic office we get the control totals, which is significant for our urban sim model, because it actually determines the growth rates. So the growth the projection needs to be similar to the projection we get from the State Demographer's Office, but that data will be prepared according to the TAS level. And the other inputs we need to give in the urban sim is the base year land use data, zoning rules, and the development capacity developable projects that we need from our local governments. And then the output we obviously get will be the socio-economic data forecast at the block and state level that needs to be fed in the travel demand model, and the density and growth patterns within the whole region. Like what are the location of the projection? It will distribute the projection within the location in block or the TAS level. So the current travel demand model, we have that a 4-step transportation demand model, which gives the transportation supply and demand within the 4-step as an input. So in the supply, we provided the existing network system, and then the counts we have for the traffic analysis zone as a demand. And then from the trip generation, we actually get the answers for how many trips will be generated within the region. And then what from the trip distribution, we will get the answer where the trips are going, the attraction of the points or the destination of the trips, and then the mode choice, which mode we are using, if that is driving alone or walking, or the carpooling system like the shared 2 or 3 plus. And then the trip assignment is generally which route we are choosing. The route, the shortest route is generally preferred, one for the model output, and then we get the volumes, the roadway, and the transit results, and obviously the summary report with the forecast. Generally, for the most accurate result, the trip in the trip assignment, the feedback loop again goes to the trip distribution again and again to get us the most accurate projection from the model. So if we see that how those trip generating and the going to the destination works, in the earlier step, it generally considered the projection and the attraction, the PA tables. But in the later step, in the traffic assignment, it considered the origin and the destination, which actually counts the load over the network system, that how and which route is working in the traffic assignment for the where the trips are originating and what are their end destination. So these are our different modeling area within our traffic demand model. The yellowish orange area is the North Front Range MPO boundary. The hash one is the 2008 ozone NACS boundary, and the bold blue one is the 2015 NACS ozone boundary we have currently, and we need to do conformity analysis for that. These are our documentation within our NPO that we that needs to be we need to use the output in those documentation. The RTP is the major one, and we need to use the regional active transportation plan, the bike facility or the lots map we get from there, and the freight planning documentation, the coordinated plan, and the CMP, congestion management process. Other than that, we need to do the air quality and conformity documentation, some of the corridor studies and funding and grant policy support documentation. Other than that, the transit and planning evaluation documentation, and those outputs helps the communities as well for various projects. So these are actually the improvements we provided our consultant for the new model update. So we are having, like in future, we are having an interactive online dashboard to allow scenario testing for our communities and the stakeholders. That will not give the full access to our model, but in a limited basis, they can use that interactive interface for getting some simple outputs from the model. And then other than that, we are adding the truck travel time reliability as a freight reliability network attribute, which will support the freight performance reporting. And again, we are adding the roundabouts as an attribute to node layers, So it will not model the roundabout outputs, but it will add where the positioning of the roundabouts are within our region. And then we are also proposing to have a toll facility sensitivity once the toll within the northern I-25 area will open up, and we will have the available data for that. Because the older models we have, that the toll facility for the north I-25 is generally a future one, but now in the new model update, maybe it will like open up within few months or within this year. So we need to have some sensitivity within our model that once the toll will open up, how it will impact the travel pattern within our region or within I-25 corridor. And then we need the consultant support for our scenario development as well. And we also propose some of the documentation update and the user guide update as well. That will be helpful for us to use the model, and that will be helpful for the communities as well, which ask us for the whole model, so we can help with them, providing them the user guide.
All right, so the model steering team is critical to the development of our travel demand model. That is where we get all of the developments, the land use, making sure that the TAZs are reflecting the population and employment correctly, that the developments that we have in there are correct, that when the land use model tells us that there's going to be households or employment, that those TAZs are actually zoned and able to have households and employment. They're not sending 50,000 people to live in the airport, which has happened before. So we need land use planners, if you have any in your agency, and transportation planners or engineers. So we really like to have TAC members as well as land use planners or engineers if that is not what you do and you have those folks within your agencies. These will be bi-monthly meetings, 5 to 7 meetings, depending on the outputs that come from the model and how many iterations we need to do. The first meeting will be on March 23rd from 10 to 12 at our office in Fort Collins. There is a hybrid option available, but really would like people to come in person. Obviously, understand if weather or other meetings will get that. So you can send me MST member names and contact information by March 16th. I would really appreciate it, and I will forward you the meeting invite. I just don't want to send to people who are not going to be there. So if you could just send me names, I really appreciate it.
And other than that, I want to give a heads up to the communities that we will need the observed traffic counts from you and the existing roadway network, transit data, and the transit survey data for 2023 or 24. So the recent one will be preferable. And then other than that, the developable project, new or upcoming, whichever available to you, because those are crucial to give the inputs in the model, because how much accurate we give the input, that will give us the accurate anticipated future projection. So that's all.
Just kind of looking at, outside of the NPO area, especially looking at Dr. Cog, down south, you guys really look at the data outside of the NPO boundary, especially with land use and how that interacts with North Range NPO when you're going through the modeling. And also, do you look at like the Dr. Cog traffic model and the land use model when you're kind of starting out and developing this model, I guess?
We don't think so, because the modeling area generally model within the boundary we have available or the TAS area we have. Outside the boundary, do we?
Yes, so we do have a bit of an overlap with the Dr. Cog boundary, since we do have so many trips in between. So we have external stations. So we go a little bit into theirs, they come a little bit into ours, and then we talk about the external stations. So that our consultant has a relationship with Dr. Cog folks, and they're also the same consultant, so is Cambridge. So we're the ones that help CDOT do their model update. So as well as the household survey, so we have that, so that's very exciting, we have new household survey data, since the last one was in 2009, and that's really old data. Yes, it's long, short answer is yes.
There's some overlap just with the boundaries.
Yeah, yeah, and then also to the north, because that is a state model as well.
Okay. Any questions? Comments? All right, very good. Yeah, as a reminder, just get your info over to Becky so you can get involved in that process. So we'll move on to outside partner reports, agenda item number 12, NOCO Bike and Ped Collaborative is the written report and packet. Agenda item 13, of the regional transit agencies. Anyone from regional transit agencies that have a report?
Yeah, I'm not with some of the agencies. So for transport, we're in the middle of our optimization study rollout. We presented to council last October. We got general consensus and support. We're going to start implementing our changes fall of 26 this year. We're going to have a smaller network by route and service hours by about 20%, just to be able to sustain our system long term. As part of the optimization, we were going to build a transit station on the west side of town, the Foothills Transit Station, I'm sure. Or maybe I've heard that our funding was withdrawn from FTA for that project, so we are looking for a new funding source. Still our highest priority, and we have some NMO funding wrapped up in there as well, so we will have an agenda item next month to hopefully repurpose those funds. For Greeley Evans Transit, I don't know if they're represented here. They have US 34 service starting in August. They recently hired new supervisors to help with new routes. They have a rebranding project going on. Looks like they have 3 finalist names, and they'll have a final name design the next month or so. They're doing a feasibility study to build a new transit facility, and they're exploring transit service in Timothy currently. And for Colt, Ken, so I don't know if you want to share any updates, but seems like they're scheduled to construct a new transit center in Q3 of this year. The new lake service, which is the flex replacement, service is going pretty well. Looks like that's working out well between us and them. Just recently.
All right, any other regional transit agency updates?
And I will say, Annabelle Phillips she'll be presenting about the optimization study at our TAC meeting next month.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
All right, with that, we'll move on to agenda item number 14, which is mobility updates. Tanya.
Hey, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, things have been busy on the mobility side. Just to give you a snapshot, year to date, we have received 105 calls into the One Call, One Click Center, and we've had 1,896 website visits. Last year at this time, we had 62 callers and 776 website visits. So the outreach is definitely paying off. More individuals are learning about our services and reaching out, so that is great. We have a lot of projects going on, but one big one is we're redesigning our website. So we're about midway through that project, and we're hoping to have a soft launch within the next month or so. And then once we make sure everything is looking great and all the functions are working we'll do a full rollout. And on the outreach and community engagement side, we've also been very busy, but I'm going to turn it over to Aaron and Lisa and let them fill you in on those events.
We'll do the round.
Okay. I think you're gonna wait till the round table.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Any questions on that? All right, moving on to reports. Agenda item number 15 is the SB 25-30 update from Jerome.
All right. So here I am again, speaking on this subject. So at the February STAC meeting, CDOT gave a presentation on the Senate Bill 2530 Transit and Active Transportation Project Inventory. So I just want to go through those slides and go through that and provide an update on where we are at currently. So first, as a reminder, this is a statutory requirement and requires CDOT and NPOs to create an inventory of transit and active transportation projects. Do want to note that they are two separate lists. So CDOT has their inventory and then we have our inventory that we manage. This is not a situation where we feed into CDOT's list. We do coordinate to make sure there's not overlap in state facilities. Other than that, this list is our list and CDOT's list is separate. The purpose is to identify gaps in transit, bicycle, and pedestrian networks to improve connectivity and safety, reduce emissions, and increase mode choice for people walking, biking, rolling, and taking transit. And the scope is rather wide, as we've learned. It includes both funded and unfunded planned projects from existing plans. There is a no time horizon or financial constraint required for project delivery, and it is a coordinated effort between the state, regional, and local entities. And our responsibility, we must create inventories for regionally significant roadways within their boundaries by July 1st, 2026. So we still have some time to update our list and keep working on that. CDOT, they are responsible for state highways and CDOT maintain right-of-ways. And then CDOT goes in a little bit to their approach for the state list, which the only communities who will be hearing from the state are our counties. Every community that's within the MPO will go through us. CDOT only does the non-MPO areas. And their requirements are slightly different than our requirements. Not too drastic, but their list is a little less, I don't want to say stringent, but they have slightly less requirement for local agencies to respond to CDOT versus MPOs. Granted, there is still no stick or no punishment for not submitting something. That has not changed. So for transit project types, what is included in the inventory is any new service, whether that is fixed route or on demand, extended service routes or areas, again, fixed route on demand, service enhancement in transit facilities. That does not include operations of existing service, transit maintenance facilities, multimodal transit plans, or data collection. And then active project types are included in inventory are walkability projects. That is all of that listed. Bikeability projects and multimodal. What it does not include is wayfinding, education encouragement programs, multimodal plans, data collection or count programs. This slide defines what is a planned project. And then these plans can include transportation, transit, active transportation plans, CIPs, mobility elements of a comp plan, NEPA documents, Pell studies, safety plans, etc. And then CDOT goes through what plans they will be looking through. At the beginning of the process, I went through the RTP and active transportation plan, included projects in that. And then they go through some next steps. So I do have our preliminary list based on what has been submitted thus far. And the unmet need is currently $142,649,469. Now we still do have time to make edits, and One thing I can do, especially with the active transportation plan ending here soon, I will have additional capacity. If you have a plan that has these projects listed out, you can send me the plan, just let me know what pages to look at, and I can incorporate the data. And if I have any specific questions on specific projects, I'll reach out. I do recognize that this has been quite a bit of work for you all, and we want to do whatever we can to help alleviate that. So if you do have any of the plans listed that do have those projects explicitly in there, feel free to send that to me, and MPO staff, we can go through and incorporate that prior to July to get that as full of a list as possible. Again, as part of the bill, there is no legislative guarantee that this would result in extra funding. However, the more accurate of a number we can give the legislature, the better decisions they can make. So this could end up with additional funding. That ultimately, it's up to the General Assembly, but this does give them more information to make decisions. So please send me those plans and where to look, so I don't have to thumb through hundreds of pages, and then I can fill that in and I will reach out to any questions I may have. And then I'll be sending out a current inventory to CDOT so we can begin the coordination process of what goes on their list, what goes on our list. I should have a better understanding of what goes on that list. So if we do get projects that come in a little bit later, I can make those updates and make sure that CDOT's looped in. And that's all I got, unless there are any questions.
All right, any questions? Very good, thank you, Joe. We'll move on to agenda item number 16, which is the 2025 crash data update with Mika.
So I wanted to provide you all an update on the crash data from 2025. This comes from CDOT's traffic fatalities dashboard. None of this data is geolocated, so we don't know where exactly these crashes are happening, but I wanted to give a comparison between 2024 and 2025 based off what is already in there. So for the state, for Weld County as a whole and for Larimer County as a whole, we have increased fatalities in 2025. From the year prior, this is last updated on February 4th, and these numbers could continue to rise or be amended. Still, sometimes crashes go in quickly into this dashboard, sometimes they lag a few months. I probably won't come to you with an update on the final numbers until I have them for 2025, but there are some crashes already in there for 2026. I don't know if TAC maybe wants more regular updates on the fatal crashes going into that dashboard, or good about it. If you actually go into the dashboard, you can also filter for the municipalities themselves if you were in need of a little bit more specific data than this. And where it says data source, that's actually a link if you want to go to the dashboard yourself.
Yeah, I'll just say it's a very good tool to have. I think it's great that the state puts that out there, and their data is very refreshed regularly. So definitely a good place to go check things out and see where things are.
Yeah, and again, none of it's geolocated, so we don't know what falls within the NPO's boundary or not. Kind of the best we can do is looking at entire counties or entire municipalities.
All right, any questions on that? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the February Planning Council meeting summary draft. It's a written report. Agenda item number 18 is NFRMPO Air Quality Program updates. It's a written report. And we have the 2026 Colorado legislative updates, also a written report. Mobility committees, also a written report, and then we are down at the round table. I will kick things off by saying that I don't really have any updates for the group, but let's kick it off over this way.
Just a reminder, please send me model steering team members. Thank you, Barry and Kim, who already sent me. So I appreciate that.
Only thing quick really is we did present our recommended 30% design for our Safe Streets for All to council last night. And we have submitted to NEPA earlier this year. We're expecting to hear back from them on their review actually next week. And then we'll be doing public outreach as a next step. We did partner with the National Laboratory of the Rockies. They have a program to analyze mobility and access. And we found that some initial findings indicate that just are looking at having protected bike lanes that we're recommending through our ISRA will provide a 50% increase to mobility and access scores according to their methods. So it's just really exciting. So.
Nothing but full calls.
Our safety action plan for Timnath is kicking off. Some of you will probably be asked to be on our steering, our technical advisory committee, whatever, stakeholder committee, whatever we're calling it, looking at you, we're going, and others. So please stay tuned for that.
Loveland, who's the consultant?
Next week.
Next week. Very good.
Our city projects fair is on March 9th, so save the date. And then the other update is just that our city engineer position has been posted, so.
No.
I have a few. So first, in case you haven't heard my voice enough. So first, active transportation plan that will be going out for public comment in the beginning of March prior to the TAC meeting where we will begin the approval process. Prior to the TAC meeting at the NOCO meeting, I will be bringing it to NOCO back in PED to look at it a little bit deeper, so we will begin getting feedback and comments. So with that, if there are any local groups or anything of that nature that would be interested in hearing about the plan, please let me know. I'll be happy to come present to any community groups, anything like that. So keep an eye out for that. I will send out an email once it's out for public comment. And then outreach, we are gearing up for our summer outreach season. We have changed some of the events that we are attending. So we're looking more at farmers markets and expanding the events we are at to find events where people seem a little more willing to talk. Historically, we've gone to the summer festivals, which can be a mixed bag depending where we're located. And many times those festivals, people are there to have fun, have some, enjoy time with their family, might not necessarily be thinking about transportation or want to necessarily talk about transportation. So we're thinking of places where we might get a little more conversation. So if you know of any events that you feel we would benefit from being at, please let me know and we can look into that. We also will be doing RTP specific outreach and we will keep you all in the loop as we get more information on that. One thing I know we will be moving forward with the RTP is the online visioning tool that we have for the corridors. So once we know what those corridors are, we will have that and send that out to you all. And we would absolutely love support in getting the message out there. Because we do incorporate comments from that into the plan. And it has changed some of the vision plans. So it does matter. And then the transportation reauthorization bill has been submitted to Congress, and that is the BASICS Act, House Resolution 7437. BASICS stands for Bridges and Safety Infrastructure for Community Success Act. We will keep you up to date as that works its way through Congress. I believe it has not gone to committee quite yet, so we don't know what sort of markups will be coming down the line. We will also be incorporating this into our legislative updates document. So we have it in writing what is going on. We will keep you all in the loop for that. As a reminder, that bill for NPO is very significant because that determines the planning factors that we plan for. that also determines what funding programs we give out to you all. So we'll be keeping an eye out on that bill, and we'll let you know. We do have information, but before it hasn't gone to committee or the Senate yet, so a lot of it is likely to change. And that's all I got.
So for me, nothing much, but communities can expect a formal email for the data request we need for the model, and that a formal email will include the data format we need for the data. So that's all.
All right. Progress on the freight plan and the public involvement plan continue. If you have any questions about that ever, please feel free to reach out. We currently have a PIP survey available and it's being promoted on our website, our social medias, and at all the events we're attending. And that'll be available at the end of March. We are in, let's call it preliminary talks to update our logo color and our general NPO color palette that was made before the digital accessibility standards. And it's a little annoying when most of our color palette is not accessible, especially on white backgrounds, and it's left to a lot of our documents not being accessible. There may also be slight changes to our logo. We're just messing around with it beyond the colors, but nothing official yet. We'll be sure to keep you all updated. And then lastly, the bad news. Nothing is official yet, but there are talks at the state level to reconcile further MMWF funding this year to cover the budget deficit. We have no official amounts or dates yet, but I'm just telling you all as a warning and to prepare for possibly the worst.
All right, so I've got a few updates. Intended to give this one at the last meeting, but I didn't end up attending. First thing is right at the end of 2025, we finished the performance report for the 2023 congestion management process, or CMP. It's probably around 20 or so pages. It's a federal requirement for us to kind of midway-ish through the CMP from when it was last adopted to check in on the performance measures and list out the planned and completed projects that kind of hit the CMP's strategies. And so that was completed. We have 9 performance measures and 5 of them are improving based off when we completed the 2023 CMP, so then the other 4 are worsening. That's a document available on our website if you're interested in taking a look at it. Next thing is back in December, I believe, we had mentioned that the NPO is interested in applying for a grant through the state's Highway Safety Office. We are going forward with applying for that. That opens up this Friday and closes March 20th. The NPO is applying for funds to host a regional safety roundtable full-day event in federal fiscal year 2027. And probably sometime next week, we plan to send out to you all a draft letter of support. If you are interested in providing us with that, we would really appreciate that. Also, this grant is something that you all are also eligible to apply for. I can forward you the resources I have. And again, it opens up this Friday on the 20th. Next is that I am coming to you all next month to talk more about the NPO's crash dashboard. It's been a long time coming. We've been having months of internal conversations on how to improve this dashboard and do the best with the data that we currently have and how do we continue to improve it going forward. So expect that. And then last thing from me is the NPO's quarterly newsletter will next be going out the first week of April. So if there are any in progress or completed projects, plans, if you guys need any like public input, you have any surveys going on, and you want it to be featured in our newsletter, please let me know. I would love to feature it. And that's all from me. So I have a mobility update for the Red Nose Call Center. So far this year, we co-hosted 3 transportation fairs with the Aspen Club at UC Health. We had a fair in Greeley, Fort Collins, and Loveland. Had a really good turnout. Lots of providers, transportation providers came. So those were great. I'm currently working on some new materials for mobility. We do have rider's guides that we hand out to the public. And we also have provider's guides, which we share with transportation providers, which are super detailed, so they can kind of cross-reference each other and find out who does what. I'm working on combining it all, just making one big little booklet. So that's my big thing for this year. Hopefully it'll be ready by summertime. And we started really ramping up our social media presence. We're starting to regularly post on Facebook and Instagram. We have restarted our X account and also created a Blue Sky account. So on social media, my new goal is to help find drivers for all these agencies because the demand is really outweighing what's available for people to get around. So that's my new mission, recruit drivers for people. I've discovered some new transportation providers that are in our area. One is called TransComfort. They do non-emergency medical transportation. And they do post-sedation transportation, which is great. MedRide, which is, I understood it's mostly in the Denver area, but they do serve Larimer and Weld County. And Weld County, they do work with Medicaid. And we discovered the Drivers Co-op Rideshare, which is in Denver. And we're really trying to get them up in Larimer and Weld County. So that's going to be part of my trying to recruit drivers. The Drivers Co-op is very similar to Uber and Lyft. They're more affordable and their drivers get more profits from their drives versus Uber and Lyft. So find us on all those social medias. Follow and like, because I'm on there announcing events. Yeah, just really trying to get a good presence out there.
You may also share your stuff too, so if you follow us, we'll
follow
share and like your stuff to help with the algorithms. So benefits everyone. For mobility planning, just a few updates. The mobility committees will be working on the mobility action plan, which is just a guiding tool for the coordinated plan, and I'll share that once we pass it through the Northern Colorado Committee. Just give an update on what they want to help guide us for the coordinated plan. As well as you heard, we are updating our website. And as part of that, we have been looking at some of the stuff on our website, looking at the cost, the efficiency, how people use it, as well as the data we get from that. One of those things that we're looking at possibly getting rid of is the trip discovery tool. It's something that we're not able to know how many people actually use it. We're not able to see the data from it. We're also spending quite a bit of money on it for a tool that My Way to Go, which we also with Fort Collins and Gonoka 34 use as a region, which does similar things as well as allows for trip planning. So I'll have more updates with that with the website, as well as next week is our Northern Colorado Mobility Committee. If you have not attended one or you want someone from your organization to attend, please let me know and I can send out an invite to them. Next week, we'll just be going over some of our mobility updates, and Mustang will be coming to the mobility committee to update them on some of their route changes. And I imagine the Weld County people will have some thoughts on the removal of the Greeley route to give them. As well as another plug for our regional TDM working group. It's a working group that has quite a few people have signed up for it over the last 2 years as it's been going through. But it just makes up of different people interested in TDM. That'll be meeting next month in March at CSU to go over regional TDM. But we also have a subcommittee that discusses marketing, which will meet this Friday, where we'll discuss just kind of general campaigns for the region. Two ideas we have is a June campaign to correspond with the rest of the state, but also having our own regional campaign probably in September, so we can beat out October Dr. Cog that they do. So we're 1 month ahead of them. But yeah, if you're interested in joining those two groups, just let me know and I can get a hold of you. That's all I got.
I don't have any updates, we're still fairly new to Will County, but I'll let Evan provide updates for us.
Oh, no, I already passed on that. Any updates from that?
We have a couple of ideas floating out there for regional micromobility, microtransit services. So we're conducting some stakeholder meetings. Really Loveland are included in one of the opportunities, the other in the micro transit shuttle, I guess we could call it, so 42 passenger van, circulator shuttle from us to Loveland and Longmont. So I personally am extremely busy, as everyone can attest to, as they are as well. So we have a lot of stuff going on right now.
All right, very good. Any updates online? Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I'll just add, just in case you guys haven't submitted comments to Becky yet or any staff on the US 34 transit study, please get comments to them as soon as possible. We're gonna be taking a look at that and want to make sure that we have everybody's input from that. I know that for the 34 corridor group, they were asking for comments on the land use models and stuff. So I know we're all asking for information at the same time, but if you guys have a chance and can get us your comments, I would really appreciate it.
Sounds good. Anyone else online that joined the round table? All right, we'll just go ahead and wrap it up then. Just send any agenda topics to Becky, and the next meeting will be March 18th.